Hello, it has been a long time since I got on here. Steve and I have talked about getting on here and doing some videos, touching base with everybody, but clearly I can't keep this a regular thing. But I've been thinking about doing this for like 2 weeks because a couple weeks ago in church, I loved the readings that I heard, totally hit home, and then in my journal last night, it kind of connected again. So I've, got a little bit to share and then a question to pose. Actually, 2 questions. The first of which, I don't know why in the world I'm sitting outside. It's 107 degrees right now and I'm roasting on my balcony, but it's just really peaceful and beautiful out here. I have a gorgeous view and I've got iced coffee, so maybe that's my consolation. Keeps me a little bit cool. Anyhow, the readings a couple weeks ago were about Martha and Mary, and I think everybody pretty much knows that basic story. Jesus goes to visit his 2 friends, Martha and Mary, the sisters of Lazarus, who he raised from the dead. And during this time, Martha is the homemaker. She's keeping the customs, the cultural customs of hosting a guest. Serving food, preparing a meal, cleaning the house, making sure everything is comfortable, making sure they're served. And this is stressing her out. And I'm sure anybody who has hosted a guest, who has family, who has lots of responsibilities and has to upkeep a home or anything like that, totally gets how she feels. I know I do. And she gets pretty ticked at her sister, Mary, who is sitting around just listening to Jesus talk. And she goes, "Why aren't you helping me? I'm loaded down with all this work. Why are you just sitting around?" And Jesus tells her, Mary actually chose the better of the 2 options between doing all this work and providing all of this for me and just sitting and relaxing and listening. The sitting and relaxing is the better option. And in the translation of the text, and granted, I'm not an expert on this, but from what I've been taught is from the Greek translation, the verbiage that's used, it's not just that she's listening to him speak, but it's that she is listening to truth. She's listening to the word of God. So she's listening to teaching, and she's soaking in what he has to say in his being, really. Which in our day-to-day life, really equivalates to prayer time, quiet time, making time to, do anything from go to church to ministry to open your Bible to listening to music, whatever it is that connects you to God. And I know that has been a massive struggle for me. And it's something I used to do all the time. I had a very regular prayer time every day. And it was always when I went to bed, because I was like, no matter what happens during my days, I'm gonna go to bed every single day, so I can use that time while I'm laying down and relaxing to talk to God and connect. And anymore, I've lost that. I use that time to either turn on the TV and distract myself, or I don't feel well, or I could come up with 1,000 excuses as to why I don't use that time for prayer. And so I'm really trying, I've only done 1 day so far, to have time to just sit and journal something very simple. I found a beautiful journal at Hobby Lobby, except I grabbed like 6 books and splurged too much money. But it was just 1-line prayers, 1-line little, things to motivate you to, talk with God and spend that time with him, which for me is great because it's very simple, because I really struggle to find that time. I am a Martha. I cannot seem to just relax and put that time with God first, which I hate to say because my whole life, my identity has been being in love with God and being a Christian. And I have to say that with that being my identity, I do not know my Bible. Like, I hardly touch my Bible, which is terrible. I thrive in keeping my relationship with God, but I am incredibly uneducated. I know the basics of my faith, but the core of it for me is my connection with him. But even still, I get so caught up in my schedule, my work, my finances, my school, keeping the house clean, keeping up with my relationships, getting errands done, all the technical things of life. And I'm like, well, these are all my responsibilities. These are things I have to get done. And I get so worked up. I feel just like Martha if I put that aside, or at least give God, even if it's 10 minutes a day, start with 10 minutes a day and work up to 15 minutes a day, just to connect with him and put him first, it sets the tone for everything else. And that's why it connected with what I was reading yesterday in Joshua, which I don't know if I've ever actually really read much from this chapter, but I was struck by it. I honestly kind of was laughing as I was reading it, because I was just like, you dummy, how have you never read this before? Because I had read the verses where it's, let's see, what was it? I think it was Joshua 1 is the chapter, and then I think it was verse 5 is the one I've heard all the time. It was, no one can withstand you while you live. I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. I've seen that on quotes and heard it a million times. This one I have not heard, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And even the verbiage of it felt very modern day. So he says, it's 7-9, still chapter 1. Above all, be firm and steadfast, taking care to observe the entire law. Do not swerve from it either to the right or to the left, that you may succeed wherever you go. Keep this book of the law on your lips, recite it by day and by night, that you may observe carefully all that is written in it. Then you will successfully attain your goal. I command you, be firm and steadfast. Do not fear nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I was like, oh my gosh. He bluntly says that if you simply follow your faith and stay connected to God, all of your goals, all your responsibilities will fall into place. And granted, you absolutely, you can attain your goals. You can do all these things when you do it on your own. And that's what I do so much at the time. I find myself being like, well, I have to figure it out. And, I can't hear God's voice, or I don't trust myself to interpret what he's telling me. And there's a timeline, or there's this, or, there's things about situations or people that only I understand. And I have to get this done and that done, and if I don't do it right, and blah, blah, blah. But it puts all of it on my shoulders. And I even wrote down in my journal, I went, holy shit, I'm not God. Like, what am I thinking? Like, to say that nobody understands this or that or blah, blah, blah. God does. So it's crazy to me that I think about it and I just want to slap myself. I'm like, really? You went there? And you take all of this on yourself and you don't trust him with anything. And I love too that, again, he says, you will be successful, you will attain your goals. And today in church, I feel like so much of the time we think about our goals as our work, our finances, paying the bills, the things we want to buy, the things we want to do, and totally forget that when the work day's done, when the paycheck comes in, when all that stuff happens, that's the point that you start your goal of, making your family happy, of providing for others, of doing charity, of serving God. It's not the action of working and achieving and all those things isn't the goal to obtaining the material things. The material things are the work of obtaining the goal of serving. And it's just, I lose track of that because I get so caught up in what I need to do and what I have to get done. And again, going back to being a Martha. And it's just now, I catch myself all the time and I go, damn it, I'm Marthaing again. Why? I feel like I can't stop myself. And I love too in the wording that God doesn't say, I beseech you, I ask of you, I plead with you. He's not asking. He very specifically says, I command you, be firm and steadfast, and you will achieve your goals. I'm like, wow, he's very blunt about it. So I just love that. So that's my little insight on that. Now the question I have to pose is, how do you guys do that? Because I know a million people who feel the same way, no matter what situation you're in, male, female, your work life, home life, stay at home, student, child, adult, whatever. It hits us in so many different ways, and a lot of people feel like that. And I know a lot of people who very successfully set their boundaries, even amongst the stress. Just because you set that time for God and you have those good boundaries, it doesn't mean you don't have the stress. But I'm very curious as to how you prioritize that time, as to how you set that time for peace and connection with God every day, and make it something that just doesn't fail the majority of the time, and is a solid commitment and brings you that joy in your life. Yeah, there you go. That's about it. I hate getting off these videos. I never know how to end it. I ramble. But hopefully we'll be back on, me and Steve, with some other things to share with you guys and chat about.